The Mount Sinai adventure continues. Exodus 24 and 1. God said to Moses, "Come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's sons, and 70 of Israel's elders, and worship at a distance." Moses goes up and down the mountain several times. In chapter 19, he's at the top of the mountain, and God instructs him and gives him the 10 Commandments, and then he gives him what will later be the Book of the Covenant. And then he comes down, and then that's when he's commanded to go up and bring Aaron with him. And then after that chapter, then we have the chapters that is the details of what is in the Book of the Covenant. That's what that section is. And then that's where we are now. And so now God is sending Moses back up the mountain, this time with Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and the 70 Israel elders. So I wonder if it was more than one event that took place there before. Did Moses go up, get the 10 Commandments, come back down, get sent back up, goes up there with Aaron, then gets the details for the Book of the Covenant, and then he came back down, and then he gets instructed to go up again? There's quite a few ups and downs in this chapter as far as the amount of times he has to go up the mountain. And there's all this like symbology and stuff as to why there's a purpose in this. And it's not all just one and done, because it has to fall. It sets up a pattern that we see later on. Exodus 24 and 2. Moses alone shall come near the Lord, the other shall not come near, and neither shall the people come up with him. 24 and 3. Moses came and told the people all the Lord had said, and all the ordinances, and all the people answered with one voice, "All that the Lord has spoken, we will do." So they've agreed to the ordinance, the one that he taught them. I think what he taught them at this point in time would have been just the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments is something that is easier to remember, whereas the entirety of the Book of the Covenant, I don't think he read that out by memory. I think he wrote it down, and maybe he was having trouble remembering certain parts, and God could just kind of tell him, "Oh, I want it like this, that, and the other thing," so that it was perfectly correct, and then he'd be able to read that to him to teach him that portion. Exodus 24 and 4. Moses wrote all the words of the Lord. He rose up early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain and set up 12 pillars representing Israel's 12 tribes. If we recall a couple chapters ago, Moses was ordered to do this altar at the end of the 10 Commandments. Some groups include this as one of the 10 Commandments as well, one of the 10 sayings. Exodus 24 and 5. And he sent young Israelite men who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen to the Lord. So here we have a big event, this sacrifice, this relationship, that building event between the Lord and the people of Israel. What a wonderful sight. Exodus 24 and 6. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he dashed against the altar. So Moses is doing some stuff here with some basins and some blood. He's got half of the blood on the altar and the other half in the basin. This is going to be a ritual, a type of contract. You can almost think of it like a contract that is written in blood. So first they're going to agree upon the terms, and then the ritual is going to kind of act as a facilitator to kind of sign the deal. So the Israelites, they've already agreed to the 10 Commandments. Moses read those to them first. They liked those, so now they're moving on to the second phase, and that's going to be to look at the Book of the Covenant. Exodus 24 and 7. Then he took the Book of the Covenant and read in the hearing of the people, and they said, "All that the Lord has said we will do, and we will be obedient." So now Moses is reading the Book of the Covenant, which is the last 2 chapters that we read, all those rules and regulations. And the people have agreed to those terms. Exodus 24 and 8. And Moses took the remaining half of the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, Behold, the blood of the covenant which the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words. So here we have the establishment of a new covenant, and both parties have agreed. The blood is on the altar representing God, and the blood is on the people. So they both share this blood, and the covenant is made. I guess it was signed in blood. But anyway, there we go. Exodus 24 and 9. Then Moses, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up the mountainside. Back up the mountain they go. Now we got the full party assembled. Also, it just occurred to me that the Book of the Covenant is really the Book of the Contract. It's just a written contract that they just signed in blood. I don't know how I missed that, but it should have been obvious. Exodus 24 and 10. And they saw the God of Israel. That is a convincing manifestation of his presence. And under his feet it was like pavement of bright sapphire stones, like the very heaven in clearness. This certainly was quite the encounter, and what they saw was very interesting. But we are limited on their description, for they didn't want to fill the book with what it was like and what they felt and everything in this particular event. Exodus 24 and 11. And upon the nobles of the Israelites he laid not his hand to conceal himself from them, to rebuke their daring, or to harm them. But they saw the manifestation of the presence of God, and ate and drank. So they've climbed up the mountain, and they see the Lord. They're going to be camping a distance off. They're having a little bit of food, a little bit of refreshment, and they're going to be worshiping the Lord from a distance. And Moses, he's going to get closer. But to the elders of Israel, they need to keep their distance, so this is as close as they can get. Exodus 24 and 12. And the Lord said to Moses, Come up to me into the mountain, and be there, and I will give you tablets of stone with the law and the commandments which I have written, that you may teach them. 24 and 13. So Moses rose up with Joshua his attendant, and Moses went up into the mountain of God. 24 and 14. And he said to the elders, Tarry here for us until we come back to get you. Remember, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a cause, let him go to them. So the Lord is beckoning Moses to come so that he may receive some tablets with the ordinances written on them. Moses gets up to leave, and he's going to take Joshua with him, but he reassures the elders of Israel that they're just going to go over there and see God, and that if they have any issues, to take it up with Aaron and Hur, that they'll be able to resolve whatever issues they have. Exodus 24 and 15. Then Moses went up into the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. 24 and 16. The glory of the Lord rested on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. On the seventh day God called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. 24 and 17. And the glory of the Lord appeared to the Israelites like devouring fire on the top of the mountain. 24 and 18. Moses entered into the midst of the cloud and went up the mountain, and Moses was on the mountain 40 days and nights. So some of what we see here, I think, is simply because it's from different perspectives. We've seen a lot of stuff go on where it's like Moses' firsthand experience and his conversations with God and kind of what's going on there. But now we got something that's more of an outsider point of view. What the Israelites would have saw. They saw Moses and the elders and Aaron and his sons climbing up the mountain as like a party. They were all grouped up. They went up as a group, climbing the mountain. They didn't go all the way up the mountain. They just went up part way, and then they camped out for 6 days. Meanwhile, the mountain is covered in a layer of clouds, so that people weren't able to get a clear look at what exactly was going on. And then we have this description of this manifestation of God, this thing that they were seeing and perceiving, and it's got some interesting descriptions. And I almost kind of wonder if that was what these elders would have saw. They're out there, they're praying, and it's like 6 days or whatever it is that they're out there praying and worshiping the Lord, and then the call goes out for Moses to go in, and then Moses has to go into the center of this. So he has to climb all the way up to the top of the mountain, to the location that God has kind of set up to continue on, to go and get those tablets. Meanwhile, these elders, they're waiting back here. They're worshiping the Lord from a distance. They can't get too close, because if they get caught up in the holiness, it will destroy them. So that's just kind of where they are, and they're kind of like, I guess they're kind of witnesses to the event, that they get to see exactly what's going on. So then we have Moses going into the center of this cloud, and then the outsider point of view, the Israelites, they're looking up at the top of the mountain, and they see like a devouring fire on the top of the mountain. They don't know what's going on there. They had a fog. They were kind of veiled. They weren't able to really see. And I think the elders too, at whatever distance they are away, they're close enough to probably see a lot more than the people that were right on the ground level. And Moses is entering the midst of the cloud. So I wonder if there was another cloud inside, like a double veil, like one that encompassed the whole mountain, and then they saw that fireball on top of the mountain. But then as Moses is climbing up, then there was like another cloud, another type in the center. That's where God was kind of in his being. And then Moses goes in there to see him. And then he's there for 40 days and 40 nights. And I kind of wonder if like the 40 days and 40 nights, like that's the amount of time that occurred on the outside to the people of Israel. Like I wonder what Moses's perception of time was like, if there was some sort of difference or variance in there. We'll probably see more details about what has happened, but I'm sure this was a very supernatural experience, and it's building up to something. And we got these tablets that are promised, and this is getting really exciting.